Wolverhampton Wanderers 2, Manchester City 1. 5 wins out of 5 so far this season in the Premier League, Janusz, for Man City. Wolverhampton Wanderers may have respected the opposition, but they put them to the sword. What did you make of this game?
Yeah, I mean, it was really unusual, right? Because Wolves last season, right? I mean, it was 2 wins against Wolves, easy ones if I remember, 3-0 home and away, and it's a game that you expect them to win. I just thought, in transition they've struggled today just a little bit. I was almost going to say that the fact that Pep's not on the sideline, that they're getting used to that, right? Between his suspensions and between his back surgery, that wasn't going to be an issue. But obviously transition was a big key for them. In general, though, before I even, because, we got to get to Rodri, because it seems if we want to force it, I mean, they were missing him today, right? You can always talk about Manchester City and how deep they are, but no team is immune to injuries, to loss of confidence, loss of form. And I think we knew this was going to come at some stage with Manchester City. It's almost as if, when I think about it and look for ways to describe why they lost, sometimes Manchester City to me is one of the few teams, if not the only team, at least in the Premier League, that's not allowed to drop points. It seems that way because they win so much, they spend so much money, and they're so great that every time we get a result like this, or even loss against Newcastle in the League Cup, although I don't think they worry about that, this is a more significant loss, I suppose, any loss, we don't give them any slack. And that's a little bit unfair, right? Put aside everything, the money, who owns them, and all of that. You have to look at the team itself, and we don't give them slack. They can't lose any points, and God forbid if they lose. So 0 worries for me yet, even though it's now 2 losses in a row, different competitions. Don't worry about any of that, because you know what? We've talked about injuries at Chelsea. We've talked about injuries at Manchester United. You and I just talked about that. But, I mean, when you don't have 3 key players like Rodri, De Bruyne, and why am I missing the third big one?
John Stones has been out.
Well, right. I mean, but, so when you miss key players like that, it's never going to be an easy. And in transition today, Mark, I mean, think about that, right?
Yeah.
I mean, Pedro Neto, Rodri anticipates, reads the game. At times he knows how to foul tactically. And today, I mean, how many times Pedro Neto alone and then everybody else, Wang, have caught City in transition on the counters was incredible. So if you want to talk about Rodri, how big of a miss he is, this was a good example today.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. And look, this is easy to talk about Manchester City and why did it happen, but there's always that chance that you forget that they've lost because the team played well. And Wolverhampton Wanderers' performance today, and it was similar in a way, their approach to going to Old Trafford. It's not a case of, I hope we don't get thumped today. It's give them something to worry about and have a go to an extent, but it's careful how you have a go. Yes, they got a bit of fortune for the goal with the deflection, but again, Pedro Neto this season has been absolutely outstanding. And you just wonder if I mean, the Lopetegui thing was just a saga. They chased him for so long, didn't get him. They got him, then they got rid of him. Maybe a bit of stability with Gary O'Neill and some good, solid players. They didn't start the season well as far as results are concerned, but the performances have been decent this season, haven't they?
Yeah, they have. I think you know exactly what you're going to get. And if you give him that opportunity today, as I've mentioned, I mean, when was the last time, Semedo, right? I mean, it was outstanding. Ake was, unusual to, on the goal with Phil Foden, out muscle, out pace. I mean, Pedro Neto is absolutely sensational in terms of his explosiveness. I mean, my goodness, it's just beautiful to watch. Had a long-term injury, now he's back. I mean, if he stays healthy, he alone guarantees Wolves staying up as well. Semedo is, remember that game at Old Trafford, I think the very first game of the season when Wolves shouldn't lose. They lost that game, but they were the better team. Semedo was outstanding today. He showed as well, and the center of the pitch much better, as we've mentioned already. So yes, for Wolves, I think they'll look, they just can't afford to have some of their 2 or 3 top players to be injured, because that's going to be always an issue for them. I think they'll stay the way they play right now. They're never going to be expensive in any way. But City's still, much better team. They still should have solved them. After going 1-1, you expect them to go from strength to strength. And but they haven't. Again, just throwing it out there because we have to. I mean, Haaland almost, speaking of being less influential, doesn't it seem, still 8 goals. Next game, he's going to have a hat trick against somebody. It's not necessarily about how many times he gets in, touches the ball, but you expect in games like this for a player, save your hat tricks when it's 6-5, 6 or 7-0, and maybe come up with something. Not looking dangerous. I don't even know how many touches he did have or not, but that's usually the first thing that we as press or as fans go to. I don't know how many he had, but I don't remember him being dangerous at all. And I can expect him to be a little bit better than that. But he wasn't alone, right? There's quite a few players that underperformed a little bit. But still, City should have at least gotten a point out of that.
Yeah, the unbeaten record is gone. Super win for Wolves. 2-1 at Molineux.